MV3 Traders Futures Trade Radio is brought to you by The Ultimate Trader's Guide, your one-stop shop for the most valuable income-producing information on the internet. Go to ultimatetradersguide.net to learn more. Link in the description below. Alright, what's going on? Hope everybody had a good weekend. I was planning this morning to do some, narration of the price, some price narration. But we're not seeing a whole lot of movement, so it's not really a lot to talk about. We don't have anything on the calendar. This is me kind of mixing things up. Where before I was just trading at this time and not really narrating anything. But if I see anything interesting, then that's what I'm gonna try this morning. This first half is just to do some light narration and vocalize anything that I see that's interesting. So right now we have automation sitting around 70. We had a supply response before this moment, right before the bell, right before the open. And now we're starting to get an inventory response, but one way to look at it is Wholesale hasn't really made up its mind to where, okay, Wholesale knows exactly what they're trying to do. But, so right there, we did have an inventory response, but we did drop inventory quickly back to the main inventory at 750, around 750. So we're still just holding this range, but overall the session range is like within a 90-point range, and we really haven't pushed too deeply outside of our power range. Still got some light volume. It's not a whole lot that's going on so far in today's session, so it'll be interesting to see how the rest of this plays out. And another thing that helps me narrate right now is I don't necessarily have, per my strategy, I don't have a trade bias, so I'm just watching at this point. I'm also fully okay with if I don't get any trades this morning, being that I only have like the first 15 minutes of Mondays and Fridays to really trade. So we're still catching inventory right there off of that 750 area. So I'm just gonna be watching to see if we how we come out of this box that we've created for the session. If anything interesting comes up at this point, and I'll probably point that out from my perspective, of course. I think I mentioned when I started this that there's nothing on the calendar. This is kind of a light week. Nothing that I pay attention to anyway. There's always something on the calendar, but that's rated at different. They're rated differently depending on where you get your economic events information from. But today I don't have anything that I'd be really just trying to pay attention to other than the normal time frames. And then tomorrow we have PPI, Wednesday some retail sales, and some jobless claims, building permits on Thursday. And there's also something on Friday, but my calendar on my iPad is not working for me. So anyway, that calendar, I have things that I pay attention to. That's at nv3trader.com. So you can check out the calendar there. and see the things that I keep focus of. So we're coming down. We broke below that inventory. We're dropping inventory. Coming down to PR -1, where we typically get a response. We're starting to get a slight response, an inventory response off of -1. This will be a key level for me, since this is the broke, we dropped the low of the box. And now we're at a general key level. Picked up some inventory there. So far, this is playing out like a look below and fail. Let's see if we can follow through on that. If we can hold, if we can, come back above and hold above 745. That would be a decent indicator of, that look below and fail. So I'm gonna jump off the mic for a minute and just watch it. One more thing before I jump into fully jump into popcorn eyes mode, is we do also have that weekend gap. So from a pivot perspective, we kind of did close the gap, but just in terms of the gap itself, we had that weekend gap down that we still have yet to fully close. And I will be looking at a touch of like around 852 for a full close of that gap if we ever get it.
Yeah.
Alright, so we did get that look below and failed, and we hung around above 745 for a while. I mean, for a quick second, just a few minutes, and now we're right back dropping our inventory. This puts us into my PR bear zone. So we'll, I'll be watching to see how low can we go from here. Previous inventory somewhat seasoned at 720, and we're still seeking value at lower prices. I'll be watching to see if that inventory turns into supply. Right now we have supply off of near automation off of 730. Push back above that previous inventory. Putting our inventory around 710. There's some quick inventory at 710. Doing a little bit of negotiating up here. Somewhat of a front run of 730. So I'm gonna, there's a couple of narratives that we can develop about what's happened so far. But I just want to, stay fluid in everything and just stay in motion with the motion and not really try to get stuck into a narrative. So I'm just flowing with it and watching, paying attention to what happens. So that right there confirmed that we're going to keep holding inventory or supply at 730. Still getting that supply response off of automation. Back into our quick inventory. I've had a couple signals but no triggers as of yet, so I just gotta hold the frequency and be patient. At this point it's looking like I'm not gonna get any trades this morning, which is okay. We got 4 more days in this week, then a whole bunch of weeks, a whole heap of weeks after today. If we're at the point now where I'll be looking to see if we push through automation, or do we continue to get a supply response here? This could be a pivotal location. Also a location where I would expect some budgeting and some negotiating, but it doesn't mean that it has to happen. Right now we're still continuing to put supply higher. Somewhat taking the elevator. So as of right now, the way that I'm looking at this, the picture has been painted to trigger the read that, you know, we're going to start to explore prices or higher prices, that we're going to take this price higher. But I'm also looking at the fact that we've, to use simple terms, kind of traded in these wide up and down ranges, these wide steps, like this wide stair stepping pattern. If I look at it from a 3-minute perspective, not necessarily holding any bias towards any of those narratives, just a point of awareness. This is an observation. While also staying true to the strategy as I have designed it up to this point. Which is giving me some signals, some weak triggers. But then, you know, when I get those weak triggers, I got to remember that I've, you know, put these labels around them for a reason. So it's, and then also understanding that, you know, the market is open on a daily basis. You know, so that helps me be relaxed and not even, you know, FOMO into something that I'm not really supposed to be in. It's not 100%. I still do it from time to time. So right now, you know, we're looking at another, we somewhat lifted supply, and it looks like we're kind of keeping the same narrative that we've seen within this 30-minute period. Came back into that quick inventory at automation between 7:30 and 7:25, and we got a good chance of dropping automation lower, but you know, our inventory lower. So we'll see how much of their hand they have shown so far, if they want to keep playing that same hand. You know, that's the micro view, but the bigger picture also matters as well in terms of how they show their hand. So I'm going to jump off the mic one more time and, you know, start preparing for the second half. Today is officially a no trade day for me, and we'll be right back for the second half. MV3 Traders Futures Trade Radio is brought to you by the Ultimate Trader's Guide, your one-stop shop for the most valuable income-producing information on the internet. Go to ultimatetradersguide.net to learn more. Link in the description below. All right, welcome back to the second half of Futures Trade Radio. In this segment that has been titled Trader Triggers. Now, I've been back and forth about, what I wanted to talk about today. There's a lot of things that always comes up and triggers this trader, but there's two topics, that I was thinking about, and I kind of back and forth about which one I want to go with. But I think what I'm going to do is just flow as the frequency is guiding me, which actually fits into the topic that the frequency is guiding me towards. And as you know, that's a lot of times you hear me talking about, trading from within and, all this internal stuff. But how exactly, I've kind of touched on how to do that and how to find your edge and trade from within, but sometimes it can be, it takes a lot of work to do it. So in this world, there is a lot of external noise, right? And depending on what you're focused on, that'll determine how noisy your reality is, So let me put it this way. And this is kind of feeding into this video that I linked into the chat. That's a dope video. I highly recommend checking that out. But so your brain is a computer, right? And ever since your manufacture date, or also known as, your birth date, your born date, you've had software downloaded into your computer against your will, that you've, with your will, right, that you downloaded the software yourself. You were responsible for that. But especially in those earlier years, you had software downloaded that, you didn't really have that much control over. But the dope thing about all of the software that's downloaded is that after it's downloaded, you can decide if you want to keep it on your computer or if you want to, delete it. And you can completely remove it off your computer. You can actually, if you get really deep with it, you can reboot your system. Now, that's what actually makes you different from what we know to be a computer. A computer, like this computer that I'm on right here, that I'm recording this on, it's relying on me, the external, to, download and remove and, it's reliant on me, what software is downloaded on it, and when it has a problem, it's relying on me to fix that problem. It relies on me for everything that it needs to operate, right? But unlike you, you have the spiritual side of you, which is, can be seen as the operator. And you can, since you are the controller of your own computer, you have the options, you have the choice and the responsibility, or the, accountability for what software is downloaded at a certain point. Like, so during your younger years, of course, you don't have as much accountability, right? You don't have as much control over that. But as you grow older, you start to gain more control until you have 100% control, and you're 100% accountable for whatever software that you're, that's downloaded inside of your computer. So what does this have to do with trading from within or doing anything from within? Well, it has everything to do with it. And you have to address this stuff. You have to address the software that you have downloaded in your computer before you fully are like in a zone to where you can operate on your edge or within your edge. Because as long as you're running software that you did not create, because now here's the dope part about it too, you can actually create your own software. You are the programmer of your computer as well. The spiritual you is the programmer of your computer, or can be of your computer as well. So you have that ability to what I call, write your own narrative, to program your own software that you download, that you install on your computer, right? And then you can choose it. Well, if you want to use an external software, that's, if it works for you, that's cool. And if it vibrates with the spiritual you, then that's cool too, right? But in order to know what's cool and what's not cool for you, see, it gets kind of deep, right? if I'm going to try to stick with this computer reference. Because the software can give updates or can send notifications, and it can be, it could take up a lot of, your resources, to where it starts to affect the optimization of, your computer, and then it can kind of, throw you off as an operator. So here's an example. So, it's kind of easy for me to understand since I have a background in IT, a professional background in IT, right? So if I have a lot of different programs running on this computer and I'm trying to fix this computer, right? But there's a lot of updates and a lot of, errors that are happening in the background from these different programs. The more that's happening, the more that the software is sending information, is using up resources, sending out notifications, using the RAM, using hard drive space, having errors and sending out errors, right? The harder it's going to be for me to fix whatever problem that is. So like if I have Microsoft, let's say Microsoft Word, and then I also have Sierra Chart, and then I also have, VMware, and then I have Trading View, or I have I have Google Chrome. I have all these programs running on my software on my computer at one time, and I start to have problems where my computer is slowing down and it's not operating as it should, or it's not operating optimally, right? Me as the IT tech, when I try to go and fix this computer and optimize it without just completely doing a complete, reboot or just starting over from scratch, it can be difficult for me to fix this computer and get it to its optimal performance if all of these different programs are just putting out errors and taking up a lot of resources. And now I got to go into each software and figure out what the problem is, try to figure out how to fix that problem, how to resolve that error, right? How to turn off the notifications and the things that I don't necessarily need on this computer. I got to figure out how to turn that off, and all of these programs are built, there's a kind of a base way of coding a program, but then they each have their own little thing. So I have to know about the program, and then I have to know how to make the program operate the way that I want to, and that can take a lot of time. And that can slow down me getting my PC to perform, or my computer to perform in the way that I want it to perform. And that's best for me, the operator, right? So, our brains, our mind, our bodies, it's the same thing. The more stuff, this is why I say it's important to be careful, or to be conscious of what you're paying attention to, what you're giving your energy to, your time to. A lot of times I'll go back, I'll just like be in my cave, and I will be very protective of the information that I allow to come inside of my consciousness, because whatever I'm trying to do at that time can be really delicate, and I don't want to disturb that, because I'm just doing whatever I'm doing, and any little thing can throw that off and get me off track, and then that'll slow up the overall goal of what I'm trying to accomplish. And then you have a lot of noise from all of the other stuff. There's a lot of things that's always going on, that the news wants you to know about, that people on social media want you to know about, right? There's a lot of attention grabbing going on, right? That can be extra noise that can cause you to get outside of operating in your in the way that you want to be operating, and get outside of operating within your edge, within your zone, within your frequency. So now that we understand that, of course, but how do you actually go about addressing all of this? Well, I kind of already mentioned one, where you gotta just cut yourself off from sometimes. Even sometimes you may temporarily have to cut yourself off from family and friends, because they have their own stuff that their own noise that they're bringing into your space. It's completely okay, and I highly recommend that sometimes you just have some what is referred to as me time, to where you may even tell your people, hey, from on these days or from this time to time, just don't even bother me. I'm doing this thing, and I just need time for myself, space to myself, so that I can just have some me time, right? And those that truly care about you and they really want to see you do whatever it is that you're trying to do, they're going to respect that, because it's temporary. It's not forever, right? You're not doing this all the time. You're in a space, let's say you're trying to become a better trader, right? You're in a space that you're trying to evolve and to grow as a trader, and trying to improve whatever you see as a place that needs improvement. So you got to quiet the noise, right? So I think that would be like step number one, if you're trying to find your edge, or you're trying to find your true frequency that's going to lead you to your edge and lead you to operating at your most optimal capabilities, right? There's a lot of different ways to say that, operating within your zone, whatever, right? I think we get the point. And then, so once you're in that quiet space, this is where you got to start exploring whatever comes up for you naturally, right? Now, sometimes this part could require some professional help, or I would say not even professional, I would say experienced help. So some help that can, someone external or something external. For me, it was more so something external that was created by someone, but I used this something external that helped me, fine tune what I was trying to, the frequency that I was trying to tap into, or yeah, we'll keep it at that. The frequency I was trying to tap into, which is my true frequency, right? And then operating from within that space. And a lot of times, also with quieting the noise, definitely sometimes you got to stop paying attention to social media. Stop paying attention to all of these. I'm kind of backtracking, right? Because it's just popped up for me. Stop paying attention to, if you're trying to learn how to trade, but sometimes the best way to learn how to trade is just to actually just do it. You have to see a lot of people on YouTube or whatever on the internet that will tell you that you need to learn how to trade from somebody else. Now, I've rarely seen anybody say that without something to sell at somewhere down the line, right? So they're telling you that you don't need to struggle or recreate the wheel or whatever, and you need to go get a course or get some mentorship. Oh yeah, by the way, I have a mentorship. By the way, I have a course, right? You know, rarely do you see someone say that and then just like leave it at that and they don't have anything else to give you. Not even views on their YouTube channel or more views on their social media posts, right? So it's important to also quiet that noise as well and get away from that. And then see what comes up for you naturally, right? And then lean into that. So a way that I can explain this is sometimes I'll be doing something at work and it'll trigger something, right? It'll trigger thoughts and stuff. And I'm sitting there, maybe I'm watching something and I'm sitting there and I'm having these thoughts triggered. And then I get to a point to where I just feel like I get the feeling to get up and move, right? So I get up and then I walk. Now, let me go down this road from two different ways of approaching this. So let's say I get triggered into some thoughts, into some sort of action, and then my body wants to physically move. But if I stay there and I don't move, then a lot of times I'll be just, I have this progression within my thought process, and then I get to I will reach a peak, and then that'll just leave me with like a lot more questions and like an incomplete understanding of whatever I was triggered into. Right? Now take that, and then versus I get that feeling inside of me to get up and move. It's just a feeling to get up and move. It's not really telling me to go walk. It's not telling me to go run. It's not telling me to get up and stretch. But it's just a feeling inside, that you have to listen to yourself, and you gotta be paying attention to the signals that your body is sending you, that your brain may be sending you, right? So I get this feeling to just move. So I may get up, I may, stand up at my desk. I may, stretch a little bit. I may walk around my office or something like that. But most of the time, what's most beneficial is I get up and I leave the office and I go out for a walk. And as I'm walking, I'm still processing these ideas, whatever idea I was triggered into. And then from that, I would say 9 times out of 10, where I started, by the time I'm done with that thought process, I've evolved that thought way beyond where I started. And then in that, a lot of realization will happen to where I will break down ideas and concepts to their core. Like I'll just break it all the way down to where I have so much more clarity than what triggered me initially, right? And then from that, I can use that. I've been able to use that stuff in a lot of ways that has helped me to grow, and that has helped me to find my edge in trading, in life, and in whatever else that I'm trying to do, right? So I'm saying all that to say that in this process, once you quiet the noise and you see what's there, what's still resonating with you, what thoughts come up, what feelings you have that come up, whatever gets you to move or whatever feelings come up for you, then you start exploring that stuff, right? And in that, you can find whatever's real for you in all of that, whatever, what emotions are triggered from those things, and, with that, a lot of times, like I said, it will need some sort of external help, some experienced or professional help to help you work through that stuff. And really that experienced help should actually, in my personal opinion, I'm not a psychiatrist or a therapist or anything like that, but just from my own personal experience, that external help should be more of a mirror to you than someone trying to tell you to do something, right? So a lot of times you hear people talk about therapy to where they're saying, all the therapist does is just listen to me talk this whole time. They didn't really tell me to do anything. Well, that's a therapist, in my personal opinion, that's doing a good job, because you already have all of your answers. You already, everything that you need to know, that you need to operate the way that you desire to operate. You already have that stuff, right? you just have a lot of noise and a lot of external stuff on top of that that's clogging up the resources on your computer and not allowing your computer to operate to its optimal performance. Whatever is fully capable of operating, your computer is designed to be able to run fast, efficiently, to where you can think quickly, you can react quickly when you need to, you can be, a little more, when you need to, you can be a little more reserved, so to speak, and be a little more calculated with how you respond to certain situations. Like, if you're seeing this and I'm watching this thing trade, and then I'm seeing the prices drop all of a sudden after it was hanging around the range. There's a point with all that happening, there's a point where I would need to have quick reactions. And then there's a point where I need to stay, pull back a little bit and then be a little bit more calculated with how I participate in that movement. So the more stuff that you have, the more noise that you have, clogging up the logs and clogging up the resources of your computer, your mind, the harder that's going to be to know when to be aggressive or when to act quickly versus when to slow down and be a little bit more, a bit more calculated. All right, and then the way that you get to that point, we're just gonna keep it at those two steps. Is you gotta, if you're at that point to where you just, you feel like you're not really performing how you could be performing, and you'll see it. Like, well, let me put it back to me, right? Because I don't know you personally, so I can't tell you what you would or would not see. But personally, I was able to see it, right? I was able to see, so I like to enter into a trade on a pullback. So how I like to do that, I was able to see that, not, early on into my trading career. But because I had all this other noise about how the right way to trade, and about risk management, and about looking for confirmation and all this stuff, that was clogging, it was taking up resources that I needed to be able to figure out how to actually, execute off of what I was seeing as a possibility. So I had to get away from all that stuff. I had to do a lot of internal work and had to quiet all that noise, and then explore what was remaining left over and strip away and start working on my computer before I was able to actually come up with a strategy that allowed me to fully take advantage of what I was seeing, early on into my trading career. And that process for me, it took, I say this a lot, I've been saying this a lot over the last couple of weeks. That process for me, took years. But it's the sooner that you quiet all that noise, right? And you actually go down that journey of exploring and, stripping away what doesn't really resonate with you. And, that's just, for that part, for stripping away what doesn't really truly serve you, or what doesn't truly resonate with, the core essence of who you are and what you bring into the space. This is why, you have emotions, because your emotions will be very telling into what you should and shouldn't be, trying to vibrate with, in a sense. And again, in this world that that we've been put into, that we've been born into, a lot of times, your true self is going to feel like, it's all the noise is going to tell you that that's not the right thing to do. That's not the way to go. You need to actually do it the normal way, or what everybody else is doing. And there's this whole concept of normal and average that's going to take you away from you finding and operating within your true edge. So, I think I'm going to leave it right there. But I'm going to do a quick little recap of I did a lot of explaining. So just to kind of summarize everything that I talked about is, if you haven't found your edge yet and you're still working through that process, right? 9 times out of 10, you have a lot of external noise that is keeping you away from you operating at your peak performance, whatever you're fully capable of doing, right? In order to get to whatever you're, to get to that peak, to get yourself to your edge and to be able to operate in your edge, what you have to do, or what I had to do, was I had to quiet the noise. Then I had to fully explore everything that was remaining. I also did use some, experienced professional help, right? But this was from a product that was created by somebody who had helped a lot of people, right? I'm not gonna go into the details about that, right? And then I was able to strip away things that I was able to use my emotions to strip away things that were not really serving me. And then from there, once I got to that core base of the things that were truly serving me and what really resonated with the frequency of me, then I was able to build off of that as a foundation and create this edge that I have now. All right, so with all that being said, at this point, as I'm watching the market, I'm watching the charts at the same time. And speaking of base, we've created an inventory based off the PR low around 765. And we're still just hanging around within this range, within this 90-point range. Well, we kind of extended that range. We dropped that to almost a mechanical response off of 700. And that took us right back inside of the power range, right back inside of our overnight session range. And we're just, we're conducting business inside of that shop. Budgeting a little bit here and there, So right now we budgeted for a while around VWAP and some more MSRP. Found inventory that took price above that MSRP and above automation, and right back to our main supply zone, I would say, of 800 to 810. The peak of that right now would be around 820. So the way that this is trading so far, it's very interesting that we haven't really had any significant movement up to this point. Now, I haven't traded it, but of course I always say this is highly tradable. And contrary to what anyone else is saying, if you see a way to trade this, I would highly recommend use everything that I talked about in this trader triggers and explore that. Explore how to actually benefit from, or how to actually trade what you see. If you can see it, there's a way to trade it. So once you figure it out, then you have the choice, the option to decide if you actually want to trade that way or not. But I would highly recommend exploring that, because it may be difficult, it may be challenging, but if you figure it out, it can definitely be worth it. At a minimum, you should at least find your edge. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end this session for the day. I appreciate everybody for coming through. Hope everybody have a good rest of your session, good rest of your week. And until the next one, trade it easy.